Tonight you're probably going to have a dream you don't understand. We all do. But what if those bizarre images, that weird stuff, wasn't just random nonsense? We're about to explore a new theory that sees dreams not as some deep mystery you have to interpret, but as a system inside your head just trying to find its balance. Let's dive in.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been there, right? You wake up and you just can't shake that one powerful image. For centuries, we've been asking, what did it mean? Well, today we're going to look at a new answer, one that connects our emotions, our memories, and the actual wiring of our brains.
So, for the longest time, two major fields have been trying to crack the code of these dream symbols. You've got psychology on one side, and you've got neuroscience on the other. And trust me, they look at the problem in very, very different ways. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it all comes down to the question they're asking. Psychology is all about meaning. It looks at a symbol, say a snake in a dream, and asks, what does that represent? Is it about fear, transformation? You know the drill. Neuroscience, on the other hand, asks a much more, mechanical question. It asks, how did the brain's wiring, the neurons and all that, actually build the image of a snake to begin with? So let's break that down a little. For psychology, dreams are these treasure chests of hidden meanings and universal archetypes. For neuroscience, it's more about neural assemblies, just groups of brain cells that fire together, linking an emotion to an image. So when psychology says a symbol carries emotional weight, neuroscience says, well, that weight is physically tagged by parts of the brain, like the amygdala. It's like they're speaking two different languages to describe the same event.
And this is where we take a really cool turn. Because for so long, these two fields have just been running on parallel tracks, not really intersecting. But what if there was a way to connect the what of psychology with the how of neuroscience? What if there's a new model that could actually unite them?
Well, there is. It's called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM for short, and it's a totally fresh way of looking at the mind. It doesn't see it as just meanings or just wires, but as this dynamic, energetic system that is always, always trying to find balance. Okay, so the first big idea in BKM is something called residual strain. Just think of it as all the emotional static left over from your day. That argument you didn't quite finish, a worry you pushed aside, even a moment of joy you didn't fully soak in. All that energy has to go somewhere, and that is the fuel for your dreams.
So, where does all that leftover energy go? Well, it flows through what BKM calls memory fractals. Now, these are the deep, well-worn pathways in your brain. Your memories aren't just a bunch of random files. They have a structure, like a tree with branches, or a river with tributaries. And they're called fractals because these patterns repeat at all different scales, from tiny little details to huge overarching concepts like home or love.
And boom, this is how a symbol is born in this model. A dream symbol isn't some random image your brain pulls out of a hat. No, it's what happens when a packet of that leftover emotional energy, that residual strain, collides with one of those established memory structures, the memory fractal. The symbol is the visible ripple from that collision. It's literally where raw energy meets deep memory. But here's the thing. This flow of energy isn't just chaotic. The BKM model argues it's guided by something like a fundamental emotional compass that's always pointing one of two ways, towards the familiar or towards the strange. So the model says there are two main paths for that emotional energy. When the strain flows easily along those deep established memory grooves, it creates a feeling of harmony, of pleasure. It feels right. That's the path of familiarity. But when that energy gets forced down weird, unfamiliar, or broken pathways in your memory, it creates friction, disharmony, and pain. And that's the path of non-familiarity. And check this out. Look at how this maps directly onto our most basic emotions. That path of familiarity, the smooth one, that's where all those feelings of connection come from. Love, comfort, that sense of belonging. And the path of non-familiarity, the one with all the friction, that's the source of our toughest emotions. Aggression, shame, hate, fear. See? They aren't random feelings. They're the direct result of which path the energy is taking inside your head. So the huge point here is this. A dream is not just a chaotic movie your brain plays for you at night. It's a purposeful journey. It is the story of your leftover emotional energy trying to find a stable, harmonious home inside your memory, navigating these two fundamental paths of the familiar and the strange.
Okay, so this brings us to the big one, the grand unifying idea of this whole model. It's a single principle that ties the energy, the structures, and the emotions all together into one really elegant concept, the principle of dream kinematics. And here it is. This is the heart of it. Dreams are the dynamic process by which residual strains move through memory structures in search of balance. That's the whole point of dreaming right there. So then what about the images we see? Well, symbols are the visible peaks of emotional energy along pathways of familiarity and non-familiarity. They're not the whole story, they're just the most visible landmarks on that journey, the tips of the icebergs. We can actually break this down into a really simple 4-step process. First, you've got the leftover energy from your day, the residual strains. Second, that energy starts flowing down the pathways of your memory, either the easy, familiar ones or the tricky, strange ones. Third, wherever that energy is strongest, it forms emotional peaks, and those are your dream symbols. And finally, fourth, there's an outcome. The dream either finds balance or it gets stuck. And these are the two possible endings for any dream. In a good dream, you get a resolution. The emotional energy finds a good home. That symbol integrates smoothly into your memory, and you feel a sense of balance. But in a bad dream, you get imbalance. The energy gets stuck, maybe looping around a painful memory path. The symbol can't find a place to land. And that is what we experience as a nightmare or an anxiety dream. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that those bizarre, weird, wonderful images in your dreams are not meaningless noise. They are incredibly important signals. They are the visible signposts telling you exactly where your mind is working hardest in its nightly quest to sort everything out and find emotional balance. So I'll just leave you with this thought. The next time you wake up and you're haunted by that dream of a locked door or a long-lost friend or some strange animal, don't just ask yourself, what did that mean? Try asking a different question. What part of my life was my brain trying to balance? It might just change how you think about your dreams forever.